Last August, Global News broke a story after speaking to an anonymous veteran who came forward to them saying that he had been pressured to consider assisted suicide by a Veterans Affairs Canada employee. Conservatives ordered the Liberal Minister of Veterans Affairs to appear before a parliamentary committee to answer for this appalling incident. And when the minister and his officials came, they tried to assure Canadians that, as disturbing as this was, it was simply an isolated incident.
To be isolated to one employee and is not indicative of a pattern or a behavior or a systemic issue. But the issue was isolated to one person.
Was isolated in the department, reinforced through this isolated incident.
But the story quickly began to change.
Mr. Ludwell, I'll direct my questions to you. You have said more than once, and the minister said in his testimony more than once, that this was an isolated case. At first, it was one case. Now it is two cases. You have said that the investigation is ongoing. You further said in answer to questions posed by Mr. Richards that the files that this employee was involved in are currently being reviewed. So given what is not known, given that, including an ongoing investigation, including case files that are being reviewed, how can you say with any confidence that this is an isolated incident?
So we called the minister back to answer more questions. And the more we found out, the worse it got.
This week, my deputy updated me that through the course of the investigation, 2 subsequent cases with the same veteran service agent have been confirmed, bringing the total number of cases from the employee to 4.
And so we dug further.
I'm sure you're aware of the case that was reported in the media today, where a veteran came forward on a podcast last night, indicating that he also was pressured by a Veterans Affairs employee inappropriately to consider taking assisted suicide. Is that one of these 4 cases?
No.
Having said that, that means that we now have a 5th case. This is a 5th case. And we do not know if this case is now then confined to this single employee or not.
And yet they refused to fire the employee.
So you're telling us that the employee in question, we're talking about an employee who now has counseled at least 4 veterans on assisted suicide. One of those veterans, there's widely reported to no longer be with us. So one veteran has lost his life. This has happened over the course of about 3 years. And you're telling us that this veteran is, or this employee is still employed at Veterans Affairs?
I can tell you that this employee has no interaction with veterans. This is a labor relations issue.
But Minister, the question is,
I'm sure you do.
I understood what you'd said. You're repeating what you'd said previously. Minister, if I can, because you're repeating what you said previously, and I only have so much time. I understand what you're saying. You say that this employee has no interaction with veterans, but you have referred this case of this employee and what they've done. You've called it inappropriate. It's potentially criminal because you've referred it to the RCMP, and there is at least one veteran who has lost their life as a result of this. And you're telling me that isn't grounds to fire an employee? This employee is still employed at Veterans Affairs? That is completely unacceptable, Minister. Completely. Now, it doesn't seem like you're going to give me an answer, but it sounds like they certainly are still employed.
The true extent of this scandal started to unravel.
With respect to MAID, I have a letter in my file because I had to face that as well. I have a letter saying that if you are so desperate, madam, we can offer you MAID, medical assistance in dying. I wrote a letter to Mr. Trudeau to that end, saying what I've just said.
The number of cases continued to rise the more we looked into it.
You know, last time you were before this committee, you were discussing medical assistance in dying, and you indicated to us that there were 4 4 veterans who had this issue raised with them by one particular caseworker, and that had been referred to the RCMP. Since that time, I know I'm certainly now aware of at least 8 veterans who have had this occur, and there has been at least 3 additional case managers or service agents involved in this. So we're at a situation where we've got 8 veterans and probably as many as 4 case workers.
And yet the minister refuses to believe the veterans that he serves.
What I can tell you is we have found nobody else that has indicated to. We have find no information.
So, Minister,
let me answer the question. You asked the question.
Well, sure, but let me interrupt, because you're telling me that you still believe that there's only 4 when we've had Christine Gauthier come forward, we've had Bruce come forward, and I'm aware of at least a couple of others. Now, granted, they haven't come forward, but what we know that a couple of them have. And Minister, beyond that, in July of 2021, you say you want them to come forward. Christine Gauthier came to you in July of 2021. She did come forward, and you did nothing. Do you not see that as a problem? And you wonder why veterans don't feel comfortable coming forward when you sit here and tell us we still think there's only 4 cases, despite the fact that you've got veterans who have come forward, and in one case came to you as early as 2021, well before this ever made the media, and you sit here and continue to tell us, oh, there's only 4 and there's only 1 agent, when veterans have clearly indicated that that's not, in fact, accurate. So I really hope, Minister, that you're going to go away from this meeting and think really long and hard about how you've failed our veterans in this regard, and how you're going to have to do better, because you've put potentially veterans' lives at risk.
And then, in a bizarre turn of events, on December 19th, the minister released a statement on Twitter accusing Conservatives of spreading misinformation and claiming that Veterans Affairs Canada does not offer medical assistance in dying to veterans, never has and never will. That's his quote, contradicting his very own testimony. And then, contradicting himself yet again the very next day, the minister made an announcement confirming that the employee who offered at least 4 veterans medical assistance in dying was finally no longer working at Veterans Affairs. So in less than a 24-hour period, the minister both denied that Veterans Affairs has ever offered medical assistance in dying, and then announced that one of the employees who had offered veterans medical assistance in dying was no longer working there. While Liberals try to cover up and downplay the extent of this scandal, Conservatives are working around the clock to get to the bottom of this issue by holding committee meetings, ordering the Liberals to produce documents, and calling witnesses to testify. But we need your help to keep up the pressure. Show the Liberals that Canadians like yourself are paying attention to this scandal and demanding that justice be served. You can do that by signing the petition linked in the description of this video.